just like that, it's Wednesday night.
Wednesday night.
Yeah, Wednesday night Tech Talk Live, brought to you by WAF Racing. Man, my hair is looking screwed up, dude. I guess I should run my hands through my hair.
Keep an eye on WAF Racing, man. He's got some really cool stuff coming up. He's actually testing some stuff that he can't expose, but he's going to see some of his performance gains in the. I think he's got a YouTube channel or not, but just go to WAF Racing. He'll be posting it there, but we'll reveal it at SEMA PRI time. But he's going to be doing some testing, so check him out. It's awesome.
Yeah, I want to thank all the people that came by for my Wednesday night Tech Talk 50th birthday bash extravaganza.
All hands on deck.
What's that?
It was the all hands on deck.
Oh, yeah, it was all hands on deck for sure. But I want to say there was probably like 14 people, I think is what it was. And we were kind of thinking that we were trying to limit it to like 10, but there was quite a few people showed up. So yeah. I want to thank all those people for coming by. We got a lot of work done. There's a big 8-hour-long live. We're on Mr. Rodder's YouTube channel. But we were literally cranking. And I think we went live after lunch. So we were cranking like at 8 in the morning or something. So long day.
If we would have had any more people too, I mean, literally we were already we had to move the hood out into the driveway. And then Kim was working on the side panel over there. And then me and you were kind of working in one little area for the axle, and then Dylan was in there doing the cage. There really was no room for anyone else.
Yeah, it would have been more or less cram-packed.
Yeah.
But, we had a pretty good time. A lot of work got done. I'm way ahead of where I was, so hopefully that will put me at finished up before No Name National, so I can at least test it before I get to Missouri. So
that would be good because
that'd be very good.
It would be nice. I think the next time we do live or do something like this, we should do like a drag race, like where you actually go there, and we'll do a live from the drag race and showing how it goes down and everything like that. What it takes to, shake down one of these cars. I think that'd be cool.
Well, it's definitely the biggest thing for that is just passes.
Yes.
Pass after pass, and try this, try that, try different stuff. Go with what you know works. And the more adjustable things are, generally, the better it is.
Yeah.
But, well, I'll get this thing rolling. We got Bruce Colchin, one sucker here. KS Skyhawk was in the house. Miss Cat G, Slant Daily Garage, what's up, suckers? Fab Race Mod Repeat, hello from Total Obscurity Motorsports Stables. Unity Motorsports Garage, howdy, folks. I saw Andy's live today, so they're going to be doing the Engine Dyno Challenge starting, I think, Friday.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Dr. Go is here, Dan's Garage, Levi's Backyard Performance, Clayton's Toolbox, howdy. Mohawk 62, hello, everyone, coming to you from the beautiful Vanderbilt University Medical Center. Well, I'm hoping that he had lung surgery today, and I'm hoping that he's doing pretty good. So, and I'm, wishing him a speedy recovery, I guess.
Yeah. Well, good luck, man. I hope everything goes well, bud.
And I think that's it. We got a few people in here tonight. Usually it's like a little bit more cram-packed, but I guess after the weekend, everyone's wiped out.
Yeah, I still am.
I'm definitely, I was feeling it. I took like a couple of days just to recuperate, and today was one of them. I really didn't do crap today.
And it didn't get any better. I actually have a video of it, but I didn't try to step on anyone's toes for this. It was kind of like a video of us driving out there and then driving back, and then just kind of like what I did is, cooking and stuff. But I had a water pump blow, and I had to change that out the very next day on Monday. Like, I've never had it just blow like that. So
lucky you.
I know, right? And what's funny? You were telling me about that. Yours went out driving into my driveway too. The exact same, just weird.
Yeah, it was like, well, I pulled in your driveway. We were unloading some stuff. I was only there for like an hour or two.
Yeah.
And when I walked outside, there was a puddle of water, antifreeze under the truck. And I'm like, oh, crap. And I'm like, what do I do now? And you're like, just fill some more water and drive it home. So that's what I did.
Let it go. Look at Dylan right here. Y'all
He
just
said
old.
y'all are just old. Yeah, well, wait till you get to this age. It's not recovery is not a thing. Not
That's
not
right.
like you knew before.
Yep. Right.
So
It's not like
yeah,
you go to bed and wait, and it's like a control delete, and
you're
it's a
you're gonna
reset.
be here too. I promise.
I promise. One day it will
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. But no, I today I didn't do a lot at all. I just really took a nap. I took a nap, watched a little TV. I didn't really get out and work on anything today at all. Buff Del Campo says old. He's the old guy. And he was the old guy. He took a nap while we were wrenching.
Right in his car too, man. I went over to go talk to him, and he was done. I was
Oh,
like,
but see, and I wasn't joking about the mosquitoes, was I?
no, you were not.
They were serious.
They were like a
They
war
were
machine.
serious. I don't know why they're so bad this year, but they were bad. Let's see. Dr. Go says lost a water pump on 295 or 294 around Chicago on a 96-degree day. Expensive tow and many lost hours. Man, that sucks right there. Breaking down on the interstate where you can't be repaired on the side of the road sucks butt. Yeah.
But if it's a water pump, I literally would just pull over. I'd wait for an hour or two, then I would get up and start up, and I would drive.
Head to the next exit.
Next exit, let it sit down. Then I would find the local parts store, or actually a hotel where there's a parts store next to it, and check in and fix.
So Mohawk saying thanks, Dylan, Dallas, Shane, everyone. The surgery went great. I'm feeling better already, but I'm not out of the woods yet. Not till Sunday. So, all right. Well, then you prayer warriors, do your thing.
Yeah, that's right. Positive vibes are being sent from me. So there you go.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. Hot Rod Guy Garage Russell is here, and Bobby Frizzell has popped in saying we are going to be doing some nitrous testing this weekend, hopefully.
That's my man. I like that.
Oh, is he testing one of your setups?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. But he's going to be testing nitrous. But he's going to. As soon as I get some plates and stuff in, I'm definitely going to be hooking him up with some testing. But absolutely.
Buff Del Campo was asking, who's that? Dr. Go. You get out of your car in Chicago. I definitely would, but it would be sketch on the interstate in Chicago. Man, they freaking fly by you just like Memphis, like 100 miles an hour with the cruise set.
And what's crazy too is how those roads are. I went to Chicago to go do, it was a training company. Went to go check out, and they get off the freeway and they have these like little funny, like little Batman trail roads, like that go like one-way streets. And then all of a sudden you're like on a main road and there is no like pull off anywhere. It's the strangest thing.
Well, Levi's Backyard Performance says that, well, this weekend it's the Triple Crowns weekend. We got some space in the shop. We're about 3 to 5 steps from taking it down the road and back. Well, there you go, man. You guys are really cranking on that thing, getting it done then.
Well, I told him have her get some seat time in that thing. I said, you can always make it go faster, but you seat time with something slow and then working it up and expanding it faster is definitely the way to
go. Let's see. Tom Brown says, I will need to go back and watch some of the Live from Dallas's house. I had to go pick up my yearly batch reindeer antlers over the weekend. Hope you guys had a lot of fun. A lot of fun was had, but there wasn't a lot of time spent with the live video. We just pretty much turned it on, let it stream, and then went to work on all kinds of stuff.
You know what's funny about that is that everybody who was not part of your thing was Buff was working on it, Cash was working on it, Kim was working on it. Because me and you and Dylan were basically working the whole time. So it was like people babysitting the live, like answering.
The only time you and I stopped is when we would made lunch and dinner.
Yeah.
Right? That was really about it.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah. Andrew Nelson is here, says, good evening from Team Nivlac 57. Hey, good evening, Mr. Andrew Nelson. You guys, I watched you guys' latest video where Calvin swapped in the that new VK56 into your Fairmont. So
that's actually
congratulations on having a running Fairmont, huh?
That's my cue. I'm queued up on that one. It says VVT. That's the one with the VVT on it.
Yes, but he swapped it in. I'm not going to spoil anything. He swapped it in while Andrew was out of town and surprised him with a non-blown up engine now.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Yeah, don't spoil it because that's actually literally on this other screen I have here. So ready to go. I'll be saying, no, this is Brand X. We're just trying some stuff a little different with a stick shift car. Well, I like
Oh, you're
it.
gonna spray that stick shift car, huh?
Yeah.
That's where you put the button on the shifter and you freaking spray it once it's in gear.
Yeah.
Or you do it like those 5-liter guys and you run that hydraulic clutch setup with the switch in it and then disconnect the nitrous when you throw in that clutch pedal.
Pretty much, right? And then
Yeah,
have
you ever hear them? They're like the 5-liter cars are like whoop-pow, whoop-pow, whoop-pow. And it's all nitrous backfire while being wide open throttle. So, oh yeah, Buff Del Campo says Cash helped Dylan quite a bit. He did. He was like literally in his back pocket.
Oh yeah, he did. I got a video of him standing up in there, and they're feeding things through, and then Cash had like grease on his face, like.
Oh yeah, he had grease and dirt all over his face and inside of his head, and I kept telling him like, "Dude, you're getting pretty dirty. Oh, it's a dirty job."
Then he ate two. I've never seen him eat this much. He ate 2 hot dogs at lunch, and then he ate a whole T-bone steak.
That giant T-bone. But we threw some steaks on for everybody for dinner time.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. Lars is in the house. Andrew Nelson says you cannot believe the difference the BVT makes. So I bet it's a big difference because it's like a variable cam profile. So probably a huge difference.
Yeah.
If it was like worth 20 horsepower on the regular VK, you add 15 pounds of boost and that's 40 horsepower. So it's probably worth quite a bit.
I'm going to be leaving this 3-pedal life pretty soon. The Lizard Kings, I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's going to be getting some pedals here soon. So,
yeah. Well, I need to get hot on fabricating the clutch master cylinder onto the pedal assembly, so that I can get this hydraulic clutch set up. That's the only thing I have left to do on the transmission is the hydraulic clutch setup. But right now I got the whole cage welded in, so no downside there. Let's see, I did all the finish welding that still was left over, and then now I got to finish that header for the driver's side so I can get the thing ready to rock and roll.
Tom Brown saying that, not sure where the resurgence in my Buick Smith channel came from, but got new vids, but got 42 new subs over the weekend. May make the 1,000 before the No Name Nationals. Well, that's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, you don't even need to have 1,000. You just need 500.
Yeah.
Dylan Levi says, I definitely overworked the little sucker, but he was a great help. Let's see. Bobby Frizzell saying, since I don't have to press the clutch unless I want to, we are trying some things with the wide open switch, seeing what will and what won't work. Man, yeah. I hope you don't tear that sucker up.
Yeah, just be careful of that. Make sure you put a strain gauge on something there. We've done this before, and at least put something on the shifter so that way when it comes out, it shuts off. Just be careful with that.
All right. Well, otherwise, tonight is just Wednesday night. So if you got any questions, comments, and concerns, throw them there in the chat. And we'll try to answer them up for you.
Yeah. We should, what we should tell people is a little bit about your 9.3 rear end. Is it a Buick Olds?
No, it's just a Pontiac Olds.
Pontiac Olds, that's what it is.
Yeah. So Buick had their own rear end at that time, and so did Chevrolet. And Pontiac Olds shared their rear end, which was the 9.3. It is humongous, and it is way overbuilt. It was meant for, if you think about it, what it was really meant for was Catalinas with a 421 and a 4-speed. And a Catalina is no lightweight. Even when they made the lightweight Catalinas, they were probably still around 4,000 pounds. So that axle is way overbuilt. And then I threw the biggest brakes I could possibly find on it, which is the Riviera drums and backing plates. But Shane and I put it together. It's got big, I want to say it's 41 spline axles or 42 splines, some humongous amount of axle splinage. And this thing is going to be able to handle clutch dumps or nitrous clutch dumps or whatever I throw at it, it'll probably be the transmission or drive shaft that gives up. But it's got 1350 yoke joints on the front and the rear on the drive shaft. So I doubt the drive shaft will break. It'll probably be something else.
When I saw that rear end the first time, I thought it was a joke. It almost looked like, you see a cartoon where something's so big and dumb, it's like a joke. That's what this rear end looked like. It was like, holy crap. And then I saw the drums. The drums are 13 inches in diameter. Like 13 inches. Like, holy crap. It's just a monster.
Oh, let's see. Tom Brown says, Dallas, I came across a list of Buick engine codes. Have you ever come across a PW code from 68, 352 barrel, but with only 7.6 to 1 compression? What would that have been in? I have no idea. The only thing I can think of at that, it's 68 that it would have been in 352 barrel. Would have been probably something for California. 68, like a Skylark or Sport Wagon, probably came. I bet that was not the base engine, because in those years they had a 250 inline 6 Chevy. So maybe the next step up, but it sounds like with 7.6 to 1 compression ratio, I'm assuming that is primarily for testing of unleaded fuels at that time.
Yeah. Levi is saying, Andrew, they were talking about Tri-5 Chevys here, and he goes, Andrew, the good news is 50s and older cars are starting to go down in price due to old folks not being able to buy them, fix them. I'm starting to see more of them go cheaper. He's absolutely right, because my boy's favorite car is one of the Tri-5 Chevys. His favorite is the 55, but he likes 55, 56, 57. And when I first started looking at these things, even just a year ago, man, they were like $8,000, $9,000 for just a roller. I'm seeing them come down to like, $2,000, $3,000 now almost for a roller, just because they're just sitting. No one's really doing anything with them anymore.
Yeah, well, a lot of them, if you think about it, like a lot of them were hoarded up by like the baby boomer generation, and most of them got too old before they even finished them, and then kind of give up on the project. So that's kind of where they're at right now. Michael Schmidt saying 3D printing. You guys using this yet for any parts? If so, are there any 3D print service centers, or did you buy, or are you considering buying a 3D printer? There was a guy in our No Name Nationals group named Sean O'Brien. I think that's his name. He has a little Nissan, like a 240, I think is what it is, or a 260, 280. I don't know. One of those. It's got a little Nissan Datsun thing. And he's a big Mopar guy, and he was 3D printing Mopar intake manifold, like cutaway versions, like half printed it, so he could actually see the airflow through it. But he's in our group. If you look around, he does 3D printing services just like you're asking about, and he can print you an intake manifold or whatever you may need.
Also, to WAF Racing, if you contact WAF Racing, that's primarily what he does. He does 3D printer stuff there. So that's all those little parts that he sent to you. That's all from his 3D printer.
All right,
a few of them there.
Well, SSR Performance says, "What up? I miss anything important? No, not really. Just I was just bragging about. I'm a little bit closer to showing up at the Triple Crown and giving you a hard time. Dang, what's going on with my hair today? It's crazy."
It's like you got the new hairdo where you put the little peak in the front.
I think so, but I think it's just peaked up because I need a haircut. And I don't know. But it's probably from taking a nap, sleeping on my face. All right.
Yeah, Lunar.
Oh, that's right. Dr. Ghost is saying that Lunar Outlaw Garage is playing with some 3D printed parts. See, that's right.
Yeah, WAF Racing is a 3D printer. Absolutely. Yes, and that's correct. And our company does that a lot because it's we actually 3D print plastic and steel. In fact, a lot of the stuff that I've shown you guys here with the bell housings and whatnot, those are 3D printed steel parts.
That's literally just like a welder then, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And it just welds over.
It's actually really hot molten metal that just basically kind of comes out is what it is. It's like aluminum, and it's really it's I would call it a welder, but it's just really hot. It's just pressing out aluminum and then just flows right onto it. It's actually really cool. They can do it with titanium as well, so you can do it with titanium. But we just
I
have
wonder
to,
what I wonder what the melting point of titanium is. It's got to be high.
yeah. Well, there was when I was over at Crowd, there was a guy who came over and he brought a 3D printer that was literally the size of your table, and it could do 4 rods at once. And he printed out a rod while we were sitting there, and we tested it, and it was just insane. Like holy crap! But he wanted a mint for that thing. It was expensive.
Well, if you remember, there was some rods a few years ago that were carbon fiber, that were like carbon fiber beams.
Yes.
They were like so weird looking. They were like a hollow rod.
But the problem with those is they were only good for one race because of the oil. The
Well,
oil
I figured it because it is an epoxy, it would
that's
break
right.
down with oil-based products on it, right?
Exactly.
And being a connecting rod, swimming in oil,
Yeah.
but man, were they light.
Yeah. It would be a lot more for like a road race or like a NASCAR event. I think it would last for that. But it's not something you want to go in and put in a drag car, run it, and then shut it off for 2 weeks. It would just, you'd start it up, there'd be no more rods.
So Dylan Levi said, hate to say it, but the S10 is definitely going to graze the field flat. And I'm assuming he's talking about Triple Crown. So we're going to see. He's saying mic drop, but we're going to see. We will see. I'm sure those boys from Paducah ain't coming with some slugs, right?
Yeah.
So you might have a tough time. And if I can get my dang Buick somewhat sorted and get a good, decent pass out of it, it should be competitive.
Yeah. I just, after looking at your car and working on your car, that's literally what I want to do. Is I want to have a car that's fun to drive, fun to race. I'm not cared about ultimate speed. I would rather just be under that 640 mark personally.
Yeah, so you don't have all the safety stuff, right?
Yeah, I just don't want it anymore.
You see what I was trying to do there, right? Like it doesn't take cage certifications and licensing passes and none of the stuff, but the fun level is way up.
Yeah, and it's just if I could be in a low seven, high six, right in that range, that would be so fun in the stick shift car, or even just right at that 640 mark, 650. That would just be fun. I had the most fun in the car right in that 7.0 mark, where I could drive
I,
it to the track and drive it home.
I just look at it like I don't care if I ever win a race in the car. I really don't. I mean, I would be kind of disheartened if I don't win ever,
Yeah,
but I want it to be memorable. I want it to people to go, man, I have never seen one of those, and it was cool and fun to watch,
yeah.
right? Um,
Speaking of which, I really went into depth on just talking about your car because I've never actually seen one in person, and just how well it looked. Like it was just different looking. And now that you say that it was kind of a Corvair at one point, now I can see the trunk having like a Corvair engine in it, and like it was just built around that. It's just different looking, but I thought it was really cool looking at the same time.
yeah. Let's see. SSR performance. Oh, okay. Dylan Levi says the Triple Crown is going to be the most fun this year. I feel like there are so many builds and revisions in progress. Yeah, I think so, and I'm hoping that there's at least as many, if not more, cars participating this year. And I think we really need to talk about that eliminations because I really think we need to like step it up and have like a double elimination kind of thing.
Yeah, we'll see how many cars show up, but yeah, to make it more fun. Yeah.
SSR Performance is saying we'll grudge race any Triple Crown car in qualifying for some coin. Dylan better leave that farm truck at home.
The wood hauler.
Field truck, huh? Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I like that we have our own little class that's like hasn't jumped the shark. It isn't super expensive to build something to get in there, and the world is your oyster, really, if you live within the means of that class.
Yeah.
So
It's crazy to think about. Remember all those times we were driving talking about this? I mean, we talked about this for like months,
yeah,
and
yep.
now it's here. It's awesome.
Simple 4-speed car. That was kind of the idea. I mean, I'm sure the 4-speed transmission is going to be fairly expensive just because of the maintenance of the thing.
Mhm.
But I think once you do get it completely sorted out and you buy the right parts, it'll be something that could last a season without having to really do a bunch of work to it.
Bring it on, Dylan.
Oh, Racer Ray is going to have his S10 there cleaning clocks too. So I would like to see that thing sorted out, really.
Which car is his again?
Racer Ray's?
Yeah.
He had the white S10 with a 6-liter in it.
Oh yeah, I like that one. That one was bitching too. Yes. Bring the tailgate so you can ready. What's up ahead of you?
I think it's supposed to say so you can read what's up ahead of you.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I think you know what? If that's the case, I think we need to throw out some. Since Dylan is a welder, I think we should throw out the gauntlet here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
If Brooks S10 is not the fastest S10 there, I think, regardless of who wins the class,
okay,
if it's not the fastest S10 like it's being led on, Dylan needs to cut the Chevrolet portion out of the S10 trunk lid and weld a Ranger portion with the big Ford logo down the bottom on the tailgate.
I don't know, man.
I think we should do that.
Or how about this? They have to put some other sticker, like they have to put he has to put a Ford sticker on the car, like on the windshield for a whole year until next year.
The big round Ford logo on the back window of the S10.
Yeah, right on the back window. I think that'd be perfect payback at that point.
Yeah, that way he didn't have to do a ton of work.
Yes, exactly. And it has to stay there. So every time you drive it, you got to have it.
And then Dylan's telling him, Ray, don't sleep on the light that cost you so much last year. Dude, that is 100% the truth. The first time I saw the white S10 go down the track, I think Ray literally had to use a defibrillator on himself and then take off. He took a nap. And I was like, holy crap. I think that was the first round of eliminations, matter of fact.
Listen to this. So we got this, and then we said, and then here's Buff. I think we have one of those tailgates because Buff's got a tailgate, right? Uh-huh. And then Dust Devil says, what if Dakota comes out and cleans up on D50? Ooh, think about that. So Dust Devil's talking about the two. And then we got Clint here. Clint says, you really enjoyed watching live from your place, Dallas. Sorry, missed it. Yeah, sorry you could come out.
That's no big deal. You let us know. You said you might be there. You weren't sure because you were having tooth problems. And then when you messaged the next day, like, I'm at the dentist, my tooth is killing me. I'm like, hey, we kind of figured that was going to happen.
Yeah, no big deal. Like we said at the beginning of the show, there was enough people in there to where somebody was always standing to the side anyways, because there was really nothing else to do. There was so much.
There was so many people there. The plan was we were going to try to limit it to like 10 people.
Yeah.
Right. And it ended up being like 14 people there. And it was a lot more than what we thought was going to be there.
Yeah.
And so it was pretty hectic. There wasn't really enough places to work on individual things. And then there were so many people, if you try to put them on one thing, that they would just literally be in each other's way.
Yeah.
So,
and that's why I announced it the live on last week. And then just, people contact me. So people contacted me, but I said, hey, we've got enough right now. So I appreciate everyone who contacted, but I did say that we had enough. But and then we even had some other people show up. Like there was a guy, your Buick guy, the guy with the Skylark, that gave
Brian.
Yeah, Brian.
There was a few people that showed up that we didn't even know were coming. Like Mohawk, I didn't know Mohawk was coming. He brought his sister, and then my buddy Brian showed up with his girlfriend. Huh?
Yeah, which was good. I'm no problem. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, I think we ended up with like 14 people total.
Yeah,
which was about the maximum. And I think everybody donated plasma to the mosquitoes.
I did.
So, yeah, a lot. Let's see. Dylan says, I'll put that. I'll put on it that I can't afford a Ford, so I got a Chevy. That's right. Yeah. Well, the S10 is in the GM world. The S10 is probably the best deal running at this point because it was the only thing that was still rear-wheel drive. I mean, a Camaro, yes, or a Firebird, but my God, were they heavy? That S10 pickup was fairly light.
Yeah.
Clint says they're putting him under Friday to fix his teeth. So hopefully they get it sorted out, dude.
Yeah, I've had that, dude. I had my wisdom teeth all four taken out at one time, and then a year later they had to go back in and take two more out. And I was like, what am I, like a shark on the conveyor belt or something? I guess I had some ones that were up on top that didn't know about, so they took some of those out, man. That sucked. I don't like that. So good luck, buddy.
Dust Devil Garage says one of my Mopar buddies had a D50 with a 360 in it. It has traction problems. I think all those trucks back then do, and especially when guys lower them, it gets even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then they don't have any suspension travel, which will shift the weight. And those things, with the low front ends, they don't transfer weight all that well, and just blow the. I mean, they don't have any weight in the back to begin with. The bed, if you didn't know this, if you went and took a bed off like an S10 or a D50 or a Dakota or Ranger, you literally can put two people on that bed and pick it up and take it off.
Yeah, so
it's a whole half of the vehicle.
Yeah, I had a Dodge D150 with a 440 in it. It was a long bed, and what I used to do is I used to take the spare tire because it would crank up in there, and I had a second one that we drilled holes in on the top side, and we put rocks or concrete in the top of it, and then we would raise it back up, and then we would hook it with a safety chain because that chain's not designed. That little cable that rounds up is not made for that weight. But that really helped out by putting it hanging out back. With that 440, that car would go nowhere. It just would literally light the tires up.
Well, if you remember the Fastest Streetcar America stuff, there was a racer named Chuck Samuel had an El Camino, and that El Camino had a lead-filled tailgate.
Yeah.
So they would put the tailgate down at the track, and it would be so far behind the fulcrum, which was the rear tires.
Yeah.
That it would add so much downforce on the rear tires that when he launched that sucker, the weight transfer was immense.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was doing with the truck, and it made a big difference. It really did.
Let's see. KS Skyhawk says polishing rods and or pistons. I bought the small block Buick complete rods, pistons, and crank as a balanced rotating assembly from PAW in the 1990s. At what point would I worry about messing up the balance? Well, if you're polishing, if you're I-beaming some rods, because that's what that is called, if you're polishing the rods, you should probably have it balanced before you even fire it up. It's going to be significantly out of balance because those rods, I mean, they're all kind of like somewhat close, but generally they're out from the factory, right? Anytime you take metal off or you change pistons, you should technically do that. Because if you ever buy like OEM brand pistons, some of them will be like 50 grams different than any other one, you know? And even though they look the same, there's just a significant weight difference in it because of the casting or whatever, you know? I'm building that Wilder Cat 355 that is for Clint's S10 pickup. And we took 2 sets of V6 pistons in there. And out of 2 sets, the weight varied, like it was like, I want to say 612 grams per was about what the weight of the piston was. I don't know I can't remember if that's right or not, but I'll just use that number. Okay. 612 for one. The heaviest one was 648. And they literally, out of those 2 sets, there was 4 that were so heavy you couldn't balance them into weight. They would have had to take so much material off that the piston would have probably fallen through the top of the piston. That is,
yeah,
and that's where they normally drill it, is right under the head of the piston.
Yeah, I take it off where the pin goes through. You flip the pin over. I take them off on the inside right there, just right where the pin's at. So, and then right on the inside of that. So that way it's not really structural, because there's so much area for the pin there. And usually the pistons come pretty close. I did a video once on like pre-balanced engines. Are they really balanced? Are they really correct? And it wasn't even in the ballpark. And I had to change a lot of weight on that to get it to balance correctly. And then I had to rebalance the crank. But yeah, if you want, watch that video because I show exactly step by step how to do it.
Let's see. Racer Ray saying that Dylan the new stall speed is going to help out a bunch for his S10. There was quite a few things. I remember it was a fresh build that Ray did. So, I mean, there was a lot of bugs to be worked out. And I believe the first time it ever went down the track was No Name Nationals. So he had a lot of tuning to do, especially with the carburetor. I believe the carburetor was just dumping fuel when he launched. I think it was bogging the motor out. Or maybe it might have been too lean. I don't know. Accelerator pump was too little. But yeah, there was quite a bit of tuning. I'm sure he's got some of it sorted out now. Tom Brown says, has anyone used a Moroso or similar lifter bore grooving tool?
Yes. Yeah, we had one. We did for on flatheads. I actually did a bunch of them with this. So this way you get a lifter that's got the 3 balls in it and it holds it in line. So that way you don't have to run the link bar, and it just makes everything lighter. It makes the whole valve trains just basically, not only lighter but quieter. So yeah, and I've also done them on some small block Chevrolets too. You just put them in there, and then you run it's a hardened tool, and then you run a drill bit through there, and it cuts into the cast iron, and you run it up and down a few times, and you run a reamer through there, and it basically just puts a groove in it, so you can put your lifters in them with the pins.
That's the keyed lifters, right?
Yeah, it's got the 3 little balls or 4 balls in them. But other than that, it's a pretty straightforward deal. It's really easy. Just make sure that it's straight and it's in there true, and don't rush it. Other than that, it's really simple. And in fact, if I could do that on all my engines, I definitely would. It's that way you don't have to run a link bar, because it gets rid of the link bar altogether.
Yeah, link bar system is, I mean, they're good for what they do, but they add some weight. I was looking at, you remember the dog bones that they used to use from the factory?
Yep.
I was looking at using a set of those because it doesn't really add any weight. It just makes it to where the lifter can't turn because it's square essentially.
Yeah.
Right? And
but they do have movement so where they can walk back and forth. So it will cause, at high lift and high RPM, it will cause it to walk on the camshaft. So it never stays 100% true. And that's the only problem. Even a link bar has a little bit of play in them, but a keyed lifter almost has none. That's the beauty of them.
Okay. Yeah, Razor Ray saying the only testing done on his truck was the Mexican roads, lean bog. Okay, yeah, I do remember it falling on its face off the line, and I was kind of wondering if that was because I think he fought that the whole entire weekend. So that was probably, I bet if that was, everything had to do with the accelerator pump on that one. Because if that was a 6-liter, it probably wanted the large accelerator pump. Because I think he was running a Holly, I do believe.
Oh yeah. If I'd have known that, man, you came over, I had plenty of parts. I had a whole kit for the VRS sitting there, and all those parts are interchangeable. And we could have definitely changed the cam on that to get that thing to squirt sooner, because it would have got rid of that lean bog. And 90% of the times you have a lean bog means that you have the front blades adjusted too much, and it's off the transfer slot. So typically what I'll do is I'll bring this one back and then bring this full corner, so that way you'll have this one in here and this one here. And sometimes you even have to drill a hole in the butterflies. If it's a race car and it's got over, say, a 230-degree duration camshaft anyways, you just start with 125 thousandths, or say 100 thousandths hole in each butterfly, and that will get you a lot closer right off the bat. So that way you're not off the transfer slot, because it needs that transfer slot when it opens to get the signal to that with the accelerator pump. If you're just using the accelerator pump, you're definitely going to be getting the lean bog almost every time.
The transfer slot doesn't allow. I'm thinking the transfer slot on the Holly, the way that works is that the accelerator pump squirts first, and as you're coming out of the transfer slot, the accelerator pump should be squirting, but then the fuel should be coming in through the jets, through the Venturi, by the time the squirt is almost over.
Yeah. And also too, when it's on the transfer slot, it needs that slot. So that way, when the fuel goes through there, it helps pull the fuel through, because it's still on the idle circuit there. And that's what helps it pull through. And when it does that, that's what helps come on, either if you have an intermediate circuit or on the
it also screws up the operation of the power valve. Mm-hmm. If you got that too far open.
Yep. It does.
Yeah. It needs all of that vacuum up against the power valve and the differential change to open that power valve ASAP.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so he
Oh,
says
these
he has
things
a
are
six,
vacuum secondary.
and yeah, so then right there, you're kind of at a disadvantage there because if you have the front changed so much, opened up to where it's off of that transfer slot, there's nothing you can do about it. That's the only reason why I don't like the vacuum secondary ones on those. I'll be bringing a bunch of carburetors too with me to this No Name Nationals. If you try it again and you're having problems, we'll put one of mine on it and we'll get you going.
Racer Ray, if that's the case, well, I'm wondering if that intake that he has would accept a Q-Jet.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because I got one, and then you get a 100-pound weight break.
Dylan, what size slicks? I'll bring some rims.
Yeah, he was talking about having some tires available.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Kerosene Cucumbers is here, the greatest name in all of YouTube.
Tom Brown's asking Shane, I guess what I'm talking about is a tool to groove the bore so that it shoots oil in front of the lifter on the cam. Okay. I see what you're talking about. Yeah, you can, dude, if you're going to groove that, literally just take a lifter and you can just take a scribe and scribe a line, and that will definitely help out with
That's
oil.
what I thought he was talking about. Okay, there's a trick for that you can do that's fairly easy. It's using a can opener, right? You use the pointed edge of the can opener, you just slide it right down the lifter, and it is plenty enough to run oil right down the face of the lifter.
And you will flood it, believe me, because there's high pressure and high volume right there at that area. And people who used to take our lifters when I was at Crower, they would actually just run a scribe down there, and they would end up flooding there because, we used to use the HIPAA oiling. So you'd have the band, and then you'd have the oil slot, and there was about a 90,000 difference between the two. So it was basically just doing an edge orifice oiling, right? But they would take a little scribe and scribe a line between the two, and then they would just like, man, I flooded my whole top end.
You could score the bore.
Yeah,
you could score the bore, and then the oil would just always come down the top, right on the face of the lifter.
That's
what you did the lifter, though. You could do the lifter, and it would literally go in a circle.
Mm-hmm. Or you can even do the better yet is if you could figure out a way. And I used to have a tool for this, but if you could put the lifter and then just do a flat spot on the side of the lifter to where there's from the band down, it's just 1/1000th is all you need to take with a surface grinder on the lifter, just on the side of it. That's enough oil when it's spinning to spin oil. And I do that on both sides on my lifters.
And I mess with stuff like that. I really do. Because the oil, the main oil gallery goes right down and I think every single car is like a Buick, so it's not. I'm sure there's other cars that have priority main or other engines that have priority mains, and then the lifter's just kind of like a secondary afterthought. That's how I'd like to create my Buick. Yeah, I'd like to eliminate the I'd like to, how you did your oiling mod video where you reamed out the main oil gallery and then you put a tube in it?
Yeah,
that's what I want to do, and that eliminates the lifters from getting all that oil. They're still going to get plenty of drain back and plenty for splash from windage.
Yeah.
Especially if they're DLC lifters, it's going to fix some of the stuff quite a bit.
It fixes it all because it's going to be a solid flat top, so it doesn't need it at all. And then if you just, at the top where the drain back site, you just put a screen on top of there, so that'll help keep some of the oil up on top as it drains back down. That's all you need. Just enough.
Because I'm thinking, like, right now, the way I was thinking of it was I would do that same oiling mod, except for I would ream the entire main oil gallery out, like from 7/16, take it out to like maybe 9/16 or half an inch, right? Or maybe in between there, 11/32 or something. I don't know, 14/32. I have no idea. But I think if I did that and then pound that tube in there, I could actually increase the oil flow all the way to the back of the block, and then it won't be just spewing oil out the lifter bores. Because if you ever watch one when you prime it, the first lifter in the whole row where the oil's fed to just runs oil around it. I mean, it literally just pours out.
Yeah. Oh, hey, there might be a Q-Jet. I got an adapter with a setup for an easy swap. So there you go.
Dude. Well, you know what? I will have. if that's the case, just come and hit me up because I'll help you get that thing tuned up as best as possible. And if you let me know ahead of time, I can bring some stuff with me depending on which QJet you're running. So, and help you get it dialed in because I don't think, you saw on the dyno when I did the Easy 302, it was literally 9 horsepower from a Holley to that. But, I think with a little tuning, I could have probably got it within like 6 horsepower. I think the big thing was the secondary air door was coming open too early. So if I had be able to tighten that up a little bit more instead of leaving the screw loose, and then taking all the winding off the door. But I think that you could really overcome because really a QJet is worth a tenth. If it's 100 horsepower, it's worth about a tenth, right? Or I'm sorry, 100 horsepower. Oh my God, 100 pounds of weight, it's worth a tenth, right? So showing a 9 horsepower difference is not a tenth. Right. So I think there's a big gain on trying to get one of those carburetors to work right on the right combination. That's what I think.
Yeah. Dylan's got a great question here. What's a few ways y'all earn some extra money on the side between 3 projects? I'm spread a little thinner than I like. I used to rebuild carburetors and build engines. Literally is what I did. And I also did car work on the side. So all the neighbors knew that I did like brakes and engine tune-ups and stuff like that. And that's literally how I built the Cookie Monster. And, having 3 kids and in California, that's literally how I did it. Living here, I don't have to do any of that. Plus, I don't know anyone in this area, so I couldn't really do that. But that's how I did it. And Dallas is the same thing, I think.
A lot of carburetors, and I do a lot of distributor work because that's one of the things. Those are the 2 things that seem to baffle people the most.
Yeah,
is carburetors and distributors. I'd really like to get one of them old Sun distributor machines so I could get like super precise. But I also do things that are different than everyone else. Like, okay, vacuum advanced tuning, you don't have to drive the thing to see where it's at. You could do that, or I just suck on the thing while it's connected, right? Like literally put a hose on it, suck on it, and then once you draw a vacuum on it, you can see where it's at.
Well, you know how much it's going to go, but for me on the adjustment, I like to see how fast does it come.
Where it comes in at is the big one.
Is the big one. I know because I'll tune that. I know that the engine only can have 45 degrees total timing with the vacuum advanced, right, on the Slant 6. I just need to know when it's coming in, and that's why I have the gauge, so I can, when I'm driving the car, I put a vacuum gauge up on there, the wiper blade there, and I'm watching it, and I'm just watching it, and I can feel, that feels a little funky right there. Then I can pull over, adjust that, put it back in there, and then I know, okay, I can put the gauge on it, pump it up, and then watch the timing light, and as you're pumping it up, you can literally watch that thing advance or retard.
One good thing that I've noticed about when you pump it up, because generally those pumps have a gauge on them, and you can determine at what inches of vacuum is that actually functioning, starting to work, right? And you can really dial in an air-fuel ratio with the vacuum advance.
It's a total career help I've noticed. And they come out, what I've noticed is that for at least what I've done for the Slant 6s, they're too tight. They need too much vacuum before they start to operate. And when they operate, they come in all at once. So you're basically giving up all this power. It's really loosening them up to allow them so that as soon as you get up there and you get to maximum, it's wanting to start drawing and moving that RPM. Before it was just kind of sitting there and stopping, and then it would just go wham, then slam.
That was the problem I had with the HEI distributors because they're kind of set up the same way.
Yeah.
Until I put an aftermarket adjustable vacuum advance on it, that's when I started really making gains on the thing. Mm-hmm. But I would really love to have a distributor machine. I really would.
Yeah, and that's like on the Cookie Monster, not the Cookie Monster, but the Lizard King, the Beaver, and then when I did Gilbert Slanted Sled, I literally did everything that I've done to all of them since I know how to set them up, and that's really the big gains that you notice in those cars. Like the Lizard King is set up for mileage. It is definitely not a performance because the vacuum's set up to come in fast. Now on Gilbert's, I set that up to come in a little slower for the reason so that because he wants a performance base, so he wants to hold that RPM before it starts to come in, and his is run just a little richer where mine's run really lean. So I have to, it's going to knock. Otherwise, I have to put timing into it, because when it's lean, I got to put that timing into it. Otherwise, it's going to be not happening.
Yeah, I've already done 4 carburetors this year, and that's I think what it is a lot of people are starting to recognize that the Quadrajet carburetors that came on a lot of these older vehicles are cheap to repair, and I think that's what it's actually. You can go buy an Edelbrock carburetor at any parts store, but they're like, what, $400 or $500. But for $25 for a rebuild kit, and then maybe the choke pull off is bad, so that's another $35, and then you're up and running. There's very little loss in that, but I mean, there isn't a ton of Quadrajet people running around. Most of them just take them off, throw them away because of the inherent bad name they've already. The reputation that they've already established in the 60s.
This guy right here. I didn't know anybody. I had no one to teach me about them. At that time, there was only a book, and the book was so vague, and I only had a couple of them to mess with. And then the thermal quad, I just never had a chance to play with.
Those things were so hard. I tried playing with them. My dad had 1,000 CFM aftermarket one.
I do too. I was going to bring it to you, and I forgot to bring it to you. It's someone returned it, and they were going to throw it away, and I grabbed it. It's a 1,000 CFM one.
Those things are they had this. Okay, the big 1,000 CFM one. Let me tell you how hard that is to tune compared to a Quadrajet. Right, the Quadrajet already has a Quadra Bog, and it's like 750 CFM. You throw another 250 CFM on top of that. How bad do you think the Bog is? It's even worse. And that's what kills them, is because you have such a differential between the primary throttle blade and the secondary throttle blade.
Yeah.
When the secondaries come open, there's so much surface area, it has the possibility to literally stagnate the airflow through the carburetor, which then leans it out and it falls on its face.
Yeah. So that's why I got into Holley's and the AFB carburetor. So that's basically what I can do. And I've done so many of them now. Like when Dallas was here, he was kind of telling me his combination, and that's when I did that 750 carb. I literally built it on the bench, and here you go. This should be pretty close.
Yeah, it was really close.
Yeah,
it had the AFRs were happy all the way up.
Yeah.
So, Miss Catgy says, I'm counting on lifter board bushings with 60,000 hole to help my Cleveland live at the end of a gear. And Cleveland was afflicted with the same kind of oiling issues as all the other oddball stuff. My beloved Buicks and the AMCs, but they had the same kind of oiling issues where it was like lots of RPM is what that Cleveland wants, and that's counterproductive when you have not lots of oil.
Right.
Yeah.
I like what Clint's saying here. This is a good one.
If I had 10K, I'd end up with 4 projects and half the parts I need for each. Dude, I have the same problem because I get spread so thin on multiple projects because I never want any dead downtime.
Yep.
Ends up screwing me over.
Clint, that might be an issue. Project 5 hasn't been purchased, and number 4 is already completed just to make it run. Wow.
Yeah, Andy says that I spent a ton of time on that Q-Jet and was impressed. Thanks. I appreciate it. And hopefully we can make one run at the No Name Nationals. I'm kind of considering – I have a 950 quick fuel on my super stock motor, but I'm really considering putting together a Q-Jet for it. Racer Ray says Dallas have a few of the plug top carbs for the adjustable power valve. Oh, all right, dude. Yeah, that's the one you need. If you can find one from like 78, 79, I can set you up on that pretty slick.
Heavens, Mopar says, hey, Dylan, I did a lot of carpentry house jobs. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? That's another thing, too, is handyman work.
Yes.
You can always get handyman work.
Always. And I see people here, they put little signs in the front yard here, just in this area, and people are, anytime anyone comes to this neighborhood or around this area, they just want to jack up the price so much. It's like, the handyman people who live in this area that do that, they actually charge a reasonable price, and they're actually really good,
Huh. Andy says, I'll stick with my progression ignition. I can dial it and drive it down the road. with my phone. I would love that too. I just haven't had a cache for one of those distributors. I'd like to really check one out. I really like to check out his Buick ones because he's got quite a few.
I like that too, but there's something that's nice and blissful about mechanical reliance. That means it just basically always works. Never anything that's digital has a problem at some point. Eventually, it will either work or it won't. I'll know the car's got the weight stuck because the car's all of a sudden idling at 1,500 RPM, and you're like, got a problem.
Tom Brown says that's a good question on most adjustable vacuum advance units. The adjustment is for when it comes in, not how much advance, correct? No, it does both. That's the way mine works. Like if you tighten it up pretty tight and get the spring fairly tight, it's how much it brings in and how fast.
Mine don't work. Mine doesn't work that way. Mine is.
It doesn't? Mine does.
Mine tells you on the arm, like it'll say 7.5. That means it's 15 degrees of advance because that tells you cam, and that's the actual camshaft amount, and so you double that. The on mine for the Mopars is that the Allen key in there tells you how much vacuum before it starts to come in. It basically sets a spring. It puts tension on the spring, and then that vacuum has to overcome that spring before it starts to move. So when you screw it in or screw it out, it just takes tension off that spring before it starts to move. That's literally.
Oh, see, what I've noticed is like, if the tighter you get it, the faster it comes in, and it'll be not like RPM wise, but I mean like all at once, right? You know what I mean? And it's like it hits that crest and freaking bang, all of it.
Yeah.
And the other one gradually, like if I loosen it up, it'll gradually come in, but only bring in like say 10 degrees or something.
Oh,
you know, some of them, like if you play with them suckers, you can get 25 degrees advance out of them.
Wow. No, they're definitely not like that. These ones are a set amount, and the set screw literally goes against the spring on the vacuum side. So the tighter you make it, the more vacuum it has to make. And then when it turns, it just goes wham and slams open. I make them a little looser so that way it can gradually come in like this. And when you're dealing with like something that's trying to get mileage, that's the key.
When I was a kid, before they had all this stuff that was expensive, right? They used to have like you had vacuum advance canisters. All of them had a number stamped on them, and we used to play with those. And then one day, my cousin realized, he's like, "Dude, can't we just oval out these holes that holds the vacuum advance down, and then you can just slide it in and out?" And I'm like, that's freaking genius. Why didn't I think of that, right?
Yeah.
So we just started slotting all the holes. Well, come to find out, some of them have like stupid amounts of advance, and then they're actually mechanically limited on how far the advance is based on how far that groove is cut in for the arm to travel, right? Yeah. And so there was a lot of things you could manipulate on that deal on just using one thing from the junkyard, just one vacuum advance, and that's where you'd find all the mileage.
Yeah, they're so different in Mopar land because on the Mopar you have it either goes if this is your distributor, the diameter of it, the plate, the vacuum advance goes here. It's a very small amount of advance because they only move so much. They're locked. On the Mopar ones, they have the pin only moves so much on the vacuum. If it goes over here, it does a ton because the same amount of movement makes it go a lot more. So it's either here or here, and the vacuum advance has got little stops in it, so it only moves X amount. So they know that it only is 15 degrees of advance, or some of them have 25. So they'll say or it'll be 24. Actually, they'll say 12 on it. 12X, that means that it's 12 times that.
12 at the crank, right?
It's 24 at the crank, 12 at the cam.
12 at the cam. Okay.
Yeah. So so those are a lot, but those ones have a funky arm. They kind of come in and they curve, and they get the closer they are where there's two spots where they hook in at. And the lower ones are always at the end because the more movement out here is very little, but up here, the more movement makes it move a lot. And then you will actually move that plate when it hooks into it, and it's on these little brass dowels that move back and forth. So yeah, that's totally crazy because the Mopar ones are literally set. You cannot change them. Now you could probably change where it comes in at like this, but even then, the vacuum advance only moves so much because it's got a pin stop and a stop where the hook goes in. It only goes far.
And most people don't even consider that like when you go wide open throttle, that thing has no vacuum, so it's literally like all out.
Yeah, it's all out. Exactly. Yeah.
Um, so kerosene cucumbers. Did anyone have any advice, experience, or thoughts about hydrogen generators, snake oil, or real? I believe it's snake oil. They're they're real. They will really generate hydrogen, but the amount of hydrogen that you need to generate to change anything in your car would be massive. You'd need a ton of hydrogen to make that change. I believe a lot of it's just snake oil. We've had stuff like that in the States for years.
Yeah.
There was the water vapor and the math or the science behind it is logical. It's just the volume of hydrogen needed to change anything is completely
And the amount of energy to make that hydrogen, because you have to run so much electricity across from one side to the other to generate the hydrogen to displace those, the split, basically that H2O to get the hydrogen to come up. It's just a massive amount. There's like the benefit you get out of it is not worth how much you're putting into it. So it's.
Yeah, I like it, in relation to something that people are familiar with. It's like the perpetual motion machine, right? If you're running an alternator that has to create electricity so that you can break hydrogen away from the oxygen, right? Is that giving you back enough hydrogen to burn itself to even make up the difference?
And
Probably not.
And that's the whole thing, is because if you can do watts, you can know how much horsepower something takes, but with watts and just how much power it is, how much electricity it takes, and how much is that hydrogen going to give you going into the engine. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. It doesn't compute.
Racer Ray says, Dallas, are you okay with parts store carb kits? I've used parts store carb kits. I have no problems with them. I have found that if you're looking at QJet's Quadrajet Parts has gaskets that are they make a kit that probably costs, I don't know, $5 more, but the gaskets are 15,000 instead of 10,000. So it takes up a lot of the irregularity of the air horn of the Quadrajet from being torqued down, right? So I really do like to run those. Plus, I put if you watch the video where I did John Wilburn's carburetor, I put chapstick all over the carburetor. So that way, or all over the carburetor, all over the gasket, the air horn gasket. So that way I can pop the top off and change stuff without having to replace the gasket every time.
Yeah.
So it just saves you a bunch of time and effort.
I actually used for the Holley 1920, the parts store carburetor rebuild kit for those is $30. I go to Amazon and literally buy the identical one for a third the cost. And so I have those things stocked up here, but I'm with Dallas. I'll put those on, and I actually don't use chapstick. I use grease. So I use Lucas Oil grease, the red grease, the high tack, and I smear everything in that. So that way I can take these things on and off, and it never sticks. So all the gaskets never stick.
Right. When you're down them in, that's the best thing to do. Even if you end up getting it so soaked with grease or Vaseline or chapstick or whatever that it's like a mess,
it's fine.
Once you get it figured out, go buy another gasket, put it on there, and it'll be on there forever because you got it figured out.
But here, I actually like them like that because they actually swell up with grease, and then when you compress them down, you don't have to over torque them, and they actually indent and make it a better seal. And then I just leave them alone, and then years and years and years down the road, when you take them apart, they still don't pull apart. So they don't pull the gaskets apart, and sometimes they're even still reusable then. So I just let them ride,
So let's see. Mystery Go Parts says I measured,
Dr. Go's got one right up here.
Oh.
If I have an Eddy EVS2, what was supposed to have been freshened up and is ready to install, would it be smarter if I took it apart to check everything like the jetting and the float sitting? If it sat 3 years, I literally would just take the top off, turn it upside down, and I believe it's 7/16 with the gasket. You just roll a drill bit in there, and the float sits like this. It should just barely touch the float on either side. Then turn it around like this, blow into it. As long as the seat's good, then just take some air and blow through the jets and call it good and put it on there, because they're really a dumb carburetor and they work well. They are literally the most bulletproof carburetor. If I was going to have one,
the AVS2. That's what he's talking about.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, I
AVS2.
figured what he was talking about is the ABS2. The
Okay.
only thing that ever dry rots on these things is the accelerator pump. That's it. So put fuel in there, make sure it pumps. As long as it pumps and squirts, everything should be fine.
If it's like a new combo and you're just putting that on there, if you're going to take the time to take the top off, look in there and see what jet size and what metering rods and write them all down.
Yes.
That way, because you're going to end up, if you actually spend some time trying to get this thing dialed in, you know where your starting point is at, right? And then when you buy it, like every one of those carburetors that's made by Edelbrock, like they're AVS, AVS2, the VRS, all of them has a track kit that you can buy that has all the different accelerator pumps, all the different springs, all of the different metering rods and jets. And they're inside there, it normally comes with a chart and it tells you, okay, if it's too rich with this one, go to this metering rod on those AVS2. I helped a guy with I built him a Buick 300 for a 65 Skylark, and I had an AVS2 on it, and he was trying to get it dialed in. He's like, God, it smells like gas and this and that. I'm like, it's too rich, man. We got to go to a fatter metering rod. Well, after a little while, he ended up buying that track kit like I had recommended, and then it came with that handy little chart. And after a while, that dude was like on his own. The AVS2 is so easy to change the metering rods, just like the original AVS, where you just pop them little doors off, pull the power piston out, hang a different rod on it, stick it back in there, and you're ready to go. But, okay. Let me catch up here. Mean Street Mopar says, I measured the chambers on my W2 heads. They came out at 55 cc. My static compression ratio should be 11-1.
That's perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
It's ideal. That's awesome. And if it's 55 cc, Miss Cassie's saying this right here, open or closed chambers on W2. If they're 55s, I'm going to say they're closed because that's a really small cc. The most 55, 52, or 48 is basically what I've seen on the W2s for the closed chamber.
Vintage Adventure Drives. Hey, thoughts on offset grinding cranks? Imagine a 360 crank being turned to 2100 rods. Use a 125 Chevy rod and a 327 piston, and it would make the right deck height. That's how I do hot rodding stuff all the time. That's real hot rodding. That's when there's no parts available, you make stuff work, right?
Yeah. The engine in the Cookie Monster, offset ground crank. The engine in the 68 Dart, the Desert Dart, offset ground crank. Everything was set to ground to a Chevrolet rod or an LS rod for this exact reason, because bearings are plentiful. They're narrower bearings. Rods are plentiful. I mean, everything just becomes more plentiful with the 927 pin. You can basically use a GM piston of any sort. And that's literally how I built half of my engines, was doing that right there. I'd Crowder right down the street, and they would grind anything that I would want on the crankshaft. So I've done this. And I would actually go to 2-inch journals on some of them just so I could get a little bit more stroke out of it. And then with the I can't remember the exact, I have it all written down, but there was a piston that I could buy that if I offset ground it to a 2-inch journal by so much with a 6125 LS rod, I could get that almost at a 0 deck height with an over-the-counter Chevy piston. And Chevrolet pistons are almost half the cost. I would buy the Claimer pistons for the Circle Track guys because they were cheaper, and it works.
So in the hot rodding world, the magic numbers, if you can get your engines to this, is like the 4-inch bore. Mm-hmm. And if you can get if your rod journal is larger than 2100, right? Because 2100 is the Chevrolet small block rod journal size. So almost every single aftermarket race crank has that journal size, and it's meant for Chevrolet rods. And that's just for the sake of cost and ease.
And bearing selection.
Bearing selection is a big one. I got lucky. All the Buicks used the same journal size. All the small blocks in the early V6 use the same journal size. And it also happens to be the same journal size as a small journal Chevrolet, which is a 2-inch journal. So I get a lot of selection there. When I think of offset grinding a crank, okay, you can offset grind to gain some more cubes, especially if you got to turn it down from let's say it's 200. I don't know what a Mopar is. let's just say it's 200, and it's 100 thousandths difference in diameter. You can offset grind that and make it essentially 50 thousandths more stroke, right? Isn't that what that works out to?
Yeah, 100,000, 50,000 more stroke. Yeah.
So
yeah,
because it's the rotational side. It's a circle, right? So it's all one side. So it'd be 50 thousandths more stroke. So 50 thousandths more stroke, it might be like 5 to 10 cubic inches on something, or you can de-stroke it. A lot of that stuff was done way early, on in the 60s, and most of it was to gain favor with rod to stroke ratio, or a different rod combination that was plentiful and cheap, or bearing sizes because it was cheap. Think about it like this: if you're gonna grind a crankshaft, let's say you take crankshaft to the machine shop, it costs $150 to get the crank ground, then go 10-10, right? So they do 10 on the mains, 10 on the rods. For that same $150, you could go 100 on the rods, or you could go, like the only problem you get to is when you got to go like a considerable undersize, it will start moving the oiling hole away from where it's actually centered on the rod. Okay. The other thing is that crank is hardened only down to like say 30 thousandths or so, and you might have to reharden the crank to use that. That's the only downside to it. Oh, well, no, I take that back. The other downside is you're going to have a lot of Mallory metal trying to balance that sucker back into balance. Because usually when you take that much off and you use a smaller rod and it's lighter, and you end up throwing a lot of Mallory metal in the crank to offset all that.
Mopar is 2.125.
2.125?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so it's only 25 thousandths difference.
Yeah, it's not much. So when you take it that you take it from either side, usually the problem is the width. So that's where you got to kind of weld them up. They're a little wider, so you got to narrow them up.
Oh, Doug's saying, I found an aluminum crank girdle for a big block Mopar for sale cheap. All the other ones I've seen are steel. Does it matter? Is steel better or aluminum? Steel would be more rigid.
More rigid, but harmonics. I always tell people that if you're going to make over 2,000 horsepower, something has to be aluminum, main caps, rods, or something to take up the shock. But yes, steel's going to be more rigid, but aluminum will always dampen harmonics and vibration better than steel. Now, on a girdle, it really comes down to it doesn't really matter much, because I think the girdle you're talking about is the one that's going to bolt to the oil pan, and they bolt to the studs coming up. I'm going to be completely fair, and a lot of people are going to be not happy with this, but they really don't do much, because there's nothing. It's going through the stud. There's nothing holding the actual girdle to the main cap individually. So to make those function correctly, to actually work the way they're supposed to, you would need to drill 2 holes or a single hole and have that bolt drill and clamp to the girdle and to the main cap on its own without the caps, because those things are going to be wiggling like this anyways. But then that bolt that's going to go through there, that's what's going to hold it rigid, and that's where it's going to lock in. So I'm up in the air on the girdles where that just go to the main caps bolts, because they will help, but they're still going to walk, and you're still going to have cap walk. Now, is it going to help? Yes. How much? I couldn't tell you, but to really make it work, you got to put those bolts down through there and lock them down.
Hawk saying, off subject, Dallas, where did you end up putting that picture I gave you? I have it with the other bags that everyone gave me for like presents and stuff. I just haven't hung it up yet. I still have it here. I haven't done anything with any of that stuff. I haven't even went out to the garage to work on anything, really.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Between vacuum and mechanical advance, my 454 tops out at 52 with 12 initial. That's actually fine. My slant 6 is 15 initial, 15 centrifugal, and then 15 at the vacuum advance, and that's really all at once. Slant 6 is because it's an underscore engine, but that sounds about right. 52 degrees sounds about right. 52 wood heads.
It's a big block Chevy.
Yeah.
So remember, it's got like already kind of a dome. Well, it's got a dome shape in the chamber. I don't know if the pistons are. I don't know if they're flat tops or not. But they would put a lot of advance in and lean them out real hard. It used to be the trick.
Mr. saying I might be able to get away with premium pump gas. My dynamic conversion is going to be in the 8-to-1 area. Well, that's good. Or just start running it, and once you tune it on 93 or wherever 91 in your area, then just put some 89 in it and see if it pings. If it pings, back off the timing a little bit, and then you know that you can. That's literally how I do it on my cars. I have it so that way I can run 87. And then when I go to, like, when I went to Dallas's house, I just bumped the timing up. I want to run 93 in it because it's going to be at 3 hours at 3,000 RPM, because I'm doing 85. Tom Brown's asking, Shane, is there anyone in Edelbrock Group that makes a GM distributor housing with a thumb screw adjustment for the base timing? I don't think so. I haven't seen that. I don't think so, man. Have you seen those before? You screw in?
No, I have not. I've never seen that. It doesn't mean it didn't exist, but I've never seen one.
Yeah, I've seen them before too, where you can it's literally a screw that you can just adjust, and it basically just moves the top part of it, and you can adjust the base timing on it. It's actually really cool. Yeah.
Let's see, Mohawk said he had surgery this morning at 8 a.m. Now in recovery observation until Sunday. I want to make sure my body accepts the valves and my lung doesn't collapse. Well, I'm hoping that you pull through and everything is fine.
Yeah,
I really do.
I do too, man. That it's always a scary time right there, but we're all sending positive vibes your way.
Mohawk's wife, happy late birthday, Dallas. Thank you. I appreciate it. You were missed. We asked about you.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So Mohawk was at your thing on Saturday and then went to surgery?
Yeah.
Wow.
He was on the thing on Saturday. He brought his sister, remember?
Yeah, I remember that. I just didn't know he was having surgery. If he said it to me, I apologize, man. But I'm glad it went well for you.
I don't think he told everybody he was going to do that. I think he told me because I kept telling him he was standing on that Bondo, right? And I'm like, dude, go get a mask. I was giving him a hard time about it. Then his sister was like, you tell him. I've been telling him all day. I'm like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
So Dougster is saying happy belated birthday. Thanks. I appreciate it. We did, like I said, we had an all hands on deck deal, and we kind of limited it to 10 people we invited because there was quite a few people. We ended up with 14 anyway.
Yeah. But there worked, which was good. And when there was always something to do, and we literally went for almost 12 hours, over 12 hours, right?
14 hours. It ended up being like a 14-hour day.
Yeah, it was a long day.
Tom Brown says we used to make carb gaskets from original Budweiser boxes. They were wax coated. They would seal up good. I think the biggest problem for those is like a carb gasket would be so hard to cut out of that sucker, especially with the small passages.
Mm-hmm.
I would really like to see what kind of tricks everybody used to make that stuff. There's got to be some kind of artistry tool that you can use. Like, you know how they have like those knives that you cut into linoleum with and stuff like that?
People who do like the leather working people.
Yes.
Yeah. This one's up here for Jay Manone 26.
Hi Lamar turns to a techie wax, aids with sealing and gasket can be removed easily without ripping. It was originally developed for Rolls-Royce for their aircraft engines.
Huh. Never even heard of that. Thanks. I need it simple. The Eddie's never been wet. I'm going to buy a whole metering and jack kit for good advice. Thanks. You're welcome, man. Just literally, take it apart. And like I like what Dallas said. If it's never been used, then it should be the factory jets in there, but still check it. Check the metering rods, check the spring. And then they usually are pretty over the counter, pretty damn close. I mean, unless your combination is a little skew, like me putting one on slant six, you're gonna have
Yeah, they work good for anything from like 300 to 370 cubic inch, pretty much.
Yeah, what size has he got on there?
I have no idea what he's putting it on.
Yeah. If I had one, I had a 750 on my 440, and I drove that thing cross country, and it was fine. I never touched it. It's true. I used to love the smell of the gasket tack, and I think that Red Indian or something like that. I remember the red can with the Indian on it. It was called Indian Head.
Indian Head.
I
Yeah,
used to love this stuff.
Dude, I have some in my garage now I use for weird stuff. I don't remember what I use it for something specifically. I can't remember what it is right off the top of my head, but I got some out the other day to use it, and it had gotten like not hard, but like tar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mine did.
And I tried thinning it with some acetone.
Nope.
It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't do anything to it. I have an original Indian Head, like the old remember brown thing that said Indian
Yeah, that's
Head?
what I have. Yeah.
Yeah. And they changed it because of the whole Indian thing, you know. But mine tarred up to where I pulled it out and it was like literally like tar. And I'm like, well, I can't use this. I tried the same thing. I tried acetone, I tried paint thinner, nothing would even touch that stuff.
I figured acetone would thin it, but it didn't.
Did do nothing, yeah. Duxer's in a pinch on the side of the road. I found a Bud Light case on the side of the road and made 2 head gaskets for a semi truck air compressor just to limp home. It one wasn't enough, but had 120 psi of air all the way home too. Wow.
Infinity 504 says LS swapping a G35. Should I go 4L60E or 4L80E? Man, this is all probably personal preference, but I say 80. Those 60s are freaking, when they fail, they fail.
Yeah. The biggest problem with the 4L60E is if you're in any type of power mode and you're in third gear in lockup and you shift to overdrive, that is the glass weakness on the 4L60E, is literally from third to fourth. If you're going to make any type of performance, I'm with Dallas on this. Do the 4L80E, but it takes a lot of power to turn that. It's basically a turbo 400 with an overdrive.
But if it's something that you throw a turbo at it, and it'll last for a long time.
Yeah, it'll last forever. But the 4L60E, here's the benefits. It doesn't take a lot of power to turn, and it's a much lighter transmission and then the 4L80E. But it really depends on what you're going to do. Personally, if I were to put it in a light vehicle that's 3,000 pounds or say 3,100 pounds, I've got something that's only making 400 horsepower or so or under, 4L60E. If I'm making something that weighs 3,500 pounds and I'm making 450 horse, 4L80E. That's kind of where the dividing line is for me.
I'm way down at 815. I'm trying to catch up. Speaking of Vintage Adventure Drive says, speaking of balance, I'm planning to go internal balance with lighter reciprocating mass. How does that affect the counterweights on the crank? I was planning to knife edge the counterweights. Okay, so if you're going to do this and you're going to use a crank that you already have, first knife edge that thing before you do anything, right? Just knife edge it, get it nice. You can do it at home. It's simple. Even if you nick a journal, they can usually straighten up the crank at the machine shop.
Yeah.
Okay, but get the crank all done up. Then you get your rods and your pistons, have the machine shop balance it. Because what happens is the rods and pistons become lighter. The counterweights are there to offset the mass of the factory piston and rod. So they normally have to drill out. Yes. They normally have to drill them anyway to kind of, when you do the lighter pistons and rods, right? So when you take all that material off of the knife or off of the counterweights, it's the same thing as drilling it. You're just not taking it out of one spot. You're just lightening up the whole thing. So they'll still end up drilling it, but you want to do that first and foremost, and then take it to the machine shop. And it won't really have, when you go from external balance to internal balance, you need to make sure your harmonic damper and your flex plate or flywheel is for a neutral balance combination.
Yep.
Okay? That means there should be no weights on it at all.
On a Mopar, they're going to be thin. If it's a thick one like this, that means that it's going to be externally balanced. If it's thin and narrow, that's internally balanced. Just know that.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you could get those options on a Mopar.
Yeah, because a 360 only comes externally balanced, where the 318 and 340s, the early versions were internally balanced. Then the later versions came external. So
I'm assuming this 273 was the same then. It probably was internally balanced as well.
internally balanced, yeah, exactly. So yeah, you can usually do that, but always, every time I do a 360, I always internally balance them, for the simple reason that it just runs smoother at RPM. And then at that point too, you're going to get your pistons a little closer. You're going to get your rods a little closer, because man, those things factory can be up to 20 grams off. So if you have pistons that are 20 grams off and you just have these externally balanced or fighting each other in opposite directions, there's still going to be some sort of misbalance in there. Just and if it's any type of thing that you're going to race with or run over 6,000 RPM, I definitely would go internally balanced with it.
Oh yeah, so Tom Brown's saying that they used to use leather punches and really sharp leather swivel knives, also different sizes of pistol and rifle bullet casings to punch holes in gaskets. So that's how they did it. That's how they made their own carburetor gaskets. So, I wouldn't have the patience for that.
Yeah. Jim Malone saying, yeah, the old glass bottles in Indian had a picture of a chief Indian with the title of Chief Permatex underneath it. That's exactly what I have. I have one of those things, and it's literally tar inside of it. And you used to be able to buy those at the auto parts store. They're always on the bottom shelf, little tiny suckers. That's what I used to use to build my small block Chevrolets with. I put those on the threads that would go into the water port.
Water jackets?
Yeah, water jackets, yeah.
I can't remember. I was just using it the other day on something. I remember what it was. It was on that 4-speed side cover gasket. And I'm like, man, this stuff is like tar. So like the first blob I put on there was like 1/4-inch thick paint. And then you try to smear it around, and it does nothing with that little stupid ball stick thing they give you. And I'm like, I'm going to add some acetone to this. All it did was make brown acetone. It didn't really thin anything out. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe it did super thin something, but it just became like brown acetone. It didn't do shit then.
So Vintage Adventure Drive saying that, Tanner saying that he's planning on using the internally balanced off of his 318 in the satellite. I don't want the aluminum flywheel to go to waste. Absolutely. I think that's awesome, man. I think that's going to be bitching. Yeah. Clint saying, I have a stock crank rods and pistons out of my 77 400 Chrysler. Is any of this desirable? The stock crank on a 400, I believe, is cast. If it was a 383, it could be forged. Maybe the rods might be worth something, because they might be cast rods if they're forged rods. But typically on those things, what I would do is I just grind off the pads right off the bat. I take them on the mill and just take those pads right off, because that just adds a ton of weight to them. They can just go away.
So I guess that was probably no. No, none of it's desirable unless
I don't think it's anything.
Forged.
The block, literally out of this right here.
He's keeping that.
Yeah, right. Right. That's the only thing that's desirable. Is probably the thing you're keeping, but other than that, probably not. There's always someone, though. If you put it on a marketplace, somebody's probably, hey, I have this 400. I want to get going. I don't have any pistons, rods, or crank. Put it up there. A couple $100.
What you got to lose? Put it on marketplace. Put it for $100 and make $100.
I can say the original 400 pistons were 118 thousandths in the hole. Slant 6, 187. 187 in the hole.
Golly, dude, I don't know how they even ran like that with all that compression, or all that distance between the top.
And then the combustion chamber is massive too. You can take 100 out of the block and 50 out of that, and you'll probably put you at 9.3 to 1.
Golly.
Yeah, and that's now they come with a factory 20,000 shim gasket. The head gaskets now are 30,000, so you're losing 20 thousandths right there. But they're just bad. But remember, it's got a 4.125 stroke.
Yeah, it's a huge stroke.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, it's been an hour and a half already. Holy cow, it's flown by.
Yeah, it's flying.
That's one thing that I'm kind of wondering. Like, so my '63 Buick, he's talking about here that about the aluminum flywheel, right? Mm-hmm. And then somebody's saying a light flywheel might be detrimental to the launch, and it got me thinking. Like, I have that 63 Buick, there's so few Buick people to ask about 4-speed stuff. Like, there's so few 4-speeds made that I had no idea where to start. So I just bought the only flywheel available, and it's billet steel. And that sucker must weigh 35 pounds, 30 pounds, something like that. It's heavy. And then I don't know how it's going to react to that 488 gear. That's a heavy flywheel. So it should have some inertia stored. I guess that's how I should look at it.
Yeah. Hey, Tom Brown saying something here. Dallas, I'm thinning the shellac with denatured alcohol instead of acetone. I didn't try that.
I didn't try it either, but
I tried mineral spirits and acetone. That's it.
Huh.
Listen to this. Read this one. This is good right here.
It'll be fine. The aluminum flywheel beat your MES 10 already.
Oh, man. That's awesome. Oh, Miss Catchy's saying that she had a 318 with 160 down in the bore. Yeah, I've seen that too. I've seen that.
160 down in the bore. My God. I don't know how they ran. Every Buick I've ever taken apart is about 40 thousandths in the hole.
Oh, yeah. No, these things were just down, way down there. And then you do like a compression test on them, and if you got like 120 out of one, you're like, yes, you know.
Yeah. 20 Cent Motor says, on my way to high school, I used to walk past a 64 Wildcat with a 4-speed. The Wildcat, it seems to be those were more common 4-speed setups in the Wildcats than anything else, because you could order it that way. That was what was cool about Wildcat and Riviera, was the top of the line of those body styles. Well, Riviera was its own body style, but you could get anything Buick offered in the Wildcat or the Riviera, right? So you could get a GS Stage 1 or a Stage 2 trunk option in a 70 Riviera, right? Or 70 Wildcat, for that matter of fact. But it seems like more of the nailheads had the 4-speed setups than any of the later V8 Buicks. Some of the 300s did. Matter of fact, the hot setup used to be the 64, 65 Buick Skylark with a 300. The 65 had the big port heads, but the 300 with a 4-speed used to drop it solidly like in G stock. And then you could run like, oh, dang, the index for the class, I don't remember at the time, was like 1490s. And just playing with that 300, you could get it almost a second below the index. Or not index, but the number.
Yeah. Main Street's asking, Professor, is there a weekend good time to drop off 318 block for oiling mods? Sure, yeah. What exactly oiling mods you wanted? I'm sorry, I'm so busy with things with as far as work goes.
I think this was from previous week's Wednesday night Tech Talks. Mean Street Mopar was wanting to build some high gazillion RPM combination, remember?
Oh, is he wanting to do the copper tube one?
I don't know.
Well, let's find out which one you want to do, because that copper tube one takes a lot of time. Yeah, let me find out which one it is. Do you have my number or any way to contact me? I'm not sure. I don't want to say it out over here, but yeah, contact me. But this weekend's fine, as long as we can make sure the terms are. If I said yes to it, it's probably because it's the hydraulic one. We weren't going to put the copper tubes in it, because that is a lot of work. That's 2 or 3 days of work. Vintage Adventure Drive saying that his pistons on his 318 were 100,000ths down in the hole. It still had 9.5 or 925 compression with 52 cc chamber. The heads were milled 100,000ths prior to me getting them. Okay, I was going to say there's something wrong here, because but that makes sense.
Let's see. Blue Grit Garage is saying the Annis 1974 351 Windsor's pistons are pretty far down the hole. I understand that pre-74 351s were not like that. It probably has if that's the case, it probably has a replacement piston in it. Because that used to be the thing, was the compression height. They would change it so it was a little bit shorter in there, so it was never over the compression ratio that was advertised, right? Because they made it like almost idiot proof, where you couldn't put something together and just blow it up because the compression ratio or detonate to death.
Right.
That was always the case. They always changed the compression height on those old Badger style pistons.
This is a good one. Read this one, Tom Brown.
Tom Brown saying a guy in town will be pulling a 320 Buick straight 8 with a manual trans. If he pulls it, I'll be doing my best to pick them both up. I had fun with that. I'm not a big fan of the straight 8, but it was an overhead valve straight 8. It's got to be smooth as glass, and then have good torque band. But I've never been one for those kinds of things. Racer Racing, years ago, he bought a 71 Centurion that had a stage 1 455, and I'm pretty sure it was factory yet. So the Centurion replaced the Wildcat. So 71 and up, the Centurion was the full boat, and you could literally get whatever Buick offered in the Centurion. So it just replaced the Wildcat.
Dr. Go Vintage, what pistons are you running your 318 and what year block? How far down the hole was original engine? How can I find out how deep my 81 pistons are sit in the hole on my 318 without pulling the head? Look, unfortunately, there's really no way to measure it without pulling a head. You can put a bore scope in there and kind of look in there and kind of get an idea, but there's really no way. I've tried this for years to try to figure it out. It's really nearly impossible. Now you can do a fluid test on it, but still that's only going to tell you at TDC how much fluid the head is, and then you can deduce how far down it is if you knew what the head is and the CC is on that factory. You can figure that out with water.
Yeah, you need oil. You need something thick that would stay in there.
Oh yeah, or oil. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but it's not worth the math. It's easier just pop the head off. And
I 100% agree with you. Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
I have a number 323 area code. I don't know where that's at. See here, 323 area code. 323 area code.
Let's see. Vintage Adventure Drive says their stock replacement pistons at 60 overboard. It's a 78 block. I measured mine when I swapped the heads. You could find yours in certain books. And I think he's just talking about how far the piston is in the hole on these 318s, right? Clint Street Machine says, I got to think the straight 8 is the perfect engine for the cars that came in when the lowrider guys get a hold of them. What I always thought would be cool for one of those straight 8s, to be honest with you, is like, you know how the guys build the rat rods out of like the early Peterbilt semi-trucks with the split windows?
Mm-hmm.
I always thought it'd be cool to put a straight 8 Buick in one of those. So it would look, because the engine, it would look very steampunk. I mean, you got 8 cylinders in a row. Imagine what a straight 6 looks like, and then add 2 more cylinders to that. It would look deceptively long, right? Like unrealistically long. And that's how those Buicks were. If you ever go look at the 40 Buick Special, they had the straight 8 in them, and they look like a 40 Chevy, except for the front end from the cowl forward is elongated by like 2 feet. It just looks so weird.
Mean Street Mopar. Okay, I think you're saying that you have a number. It's a 323 area code. No, that is not mine. Mine starts with an 858. So that is not the right number. Let's see here. Yeah, he goes, thanks, guys. And thanks, Vintage. I guess I'll wait for a rebuild to determine if I need to get pistons close to the deck without hitting the valves and the flat tops, or go valve relief. Still lots to learn. Yeah. Here's the thing, though, is if you get that, I wrote a program at work. That's in Excel. If you give me the valve drop, this is what I do with Just Mopar Joe, because he buys a lot of cams from us, is that if he gives me the valve drop at TDC, and then we can make the cam around that. So I made it so that way I know what the exhaust is 10 degrees before, and I know what the intake is 10 degrees after, and that's going to be your closest. So then I can usually make a camshaft that's going to fit around your parameters and still give you your distance, and widen or tighten up LSA and move things around, and we can do it from there.
Let's see. Vintage Adventure Drive says I saw a Buick with a straight eight under the hood in Henrietta, Oklahoma, a few years back. It was so cool seeing one with the engine still in it. The only one I've actually ever seen that ran was I don't know. It was in a video of some guys doing land speed record racing, and they had like a Hudson Hornet with a straight eight Buick in it, and it was like running like some ridiculous mile an hour, like 240 mile an hour or something. But it was like a Streamliner class, and because it was an inline engine, it wasn't categorized with all the other cars. I mean, if you think about it, the inline 8 would never run anywhere near like what a V8 does, right? Being so much more small, compact, horsepower capable. Plus, it's got a cross flow like cylinder head on the V8. And let's face it, that straight 8 probably has, what do they call that, where it goes in and out on the same side of the head, the symmetrical
L head style. Yeah,
L head. Yeah. That absolutely kills power.
100%.
Yeah, so it's like that's a big achievement when you get something that's an inline motor like that running really good and making enough power to do something like that.
Yeah. Mean Street saying that you talked to me. Okay, so no, that is not. That is that's my work number. So yeah, you can call me there. Call me there. I'll be there tomorrow. As far as I'll get there usually about 7:00, 7:15 or so. And so yeah, hit me up whenever. I should be there.
Vintage Adventure Drives says, speaking of cam specs, how much information would you want to make a custom cam?
Oh, for your 360, basically, all I would need to get is just your head, what kind of head you're going to run, what kind of RPM, your intake, carburetor, because I know pretty much most Mopar stuff. And then basically your weight of the vehicle and gear, and then if you're running a sticker automatic, that's all I really need. And then be real with yourself, what you really want to turn the car, and what's it mostly going to be doing. Is this mostly a race car? Do you want to perform as a race car, or do you want to be more of a driver that can be used as a race car? But that's all I need. Send it to spolito@edelbrock.com. Send it over there, and I'll hook you up. I actually just I did one for Dylan Levi just a few days ago, and I do it for just Mopar Joe, literally almost weekly, it seems like now.
Jay Malone says that straight 8s are just too long, lots of twisting and flexing. I don't know about the twisting and flexing part of it. I just know that they do look disproportionately long.
Yeah.
I was thinking about what else it would look good in, and the T Roadsters that had the Speedway front end on them. You know what I'm talking about when I say that?
Mm-hmm.
They have that rounded Speedway front end.
Yep.
And then some of them were like, it was a T bucket, but it was narrowed, and sometimes it was like boat-tailed in the rear, like a boat-tailed speedster.
Yep. And exactly. Yeah.
That would look so cool with a straight 8 in it, because it would look 1920s race car era.
Yes. Yeah.
But yet out of proportion, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know if all engine, what do they say? All go, no woe. But do you remember when we were kids, Matchbox cars, because you had two different things. You had Hot Wheels and you had Matchbox. That's Matchbox right. Had those real wicked ones with the big motor sticking out of them. Remember that?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's kind of how that Speedster would look, like very disproportionately long and huge.
Mm-hmm. I've only seen a few straight 8s like at car shows, but I'm with Plymouth on Plywood here. The only straight 8 he says ever seen is an old Pontiac sitting on the bank of the river. Never heard one run. I saw one in a jet boat one time, and that's where I got this. But it was not. It was an old wooden looking jet boat, like where you don't sit in the front, like the engine sits in front, and you sit behind it. It was on the river. It was that's the only one I've ever seen like running, and it sounded a little
odd. Tom Brown says something here. I worked on a straight 8 for Bonneville with my uncle once. I had to regrind a bunch of cams to get the cam timing inspect at a given RPM because it would twist the cam front to rear. It's so damn long. That's so awesome. That's a problem only a a straight 8 person would have with a car, you know. But Danny Boy said the straight 8 sounds like a V8, then a V6 sounds like a straight 6. I bet it would sound like a V8 because you still essentially have the same number of cylinders in the same 360-degree rotational pattern.
It doesn't though. Okay, here's the thing though, is that it doesn't because when they go to an 8-to-1,
oh, that collector, when you're doing an 8-to-1 collector, it sounds like it's buzzing 9,000 RPM when it's like at 2,000.
But because of the straight 8, the way the firing order works on this, it has this odd sound. Now, the one that I saw was an 8-to-1, and it had, I'm not sure the firing order on them, but it sounded so weird, like almost tractor-ish, but like fast tractor sounding. You know what I mean? If that sounds, I don't know. But it had this weird sound to it.
Vintage Adventure Drives, how important would flow numbers be for cam specs? I can get my heads flowed after porting.
Oh, no, not a big deal, because if you're
porting them though, and he's going to get you flow numbers, you can actually build a camshaft around those flow numbers.
Yeah, exactly. As far as the flow numbers, really comes down to just lift, because that tells me where I can lift the cam to. But if I know what heads they are, I can usually I have charts and charts and charts of what you can get out of those and what the average is for those heads. And if I know who's going to port them, I can usually get those flow numbers within about 3 or 4 CFM, usually pretty close. And then it really comes up to you. What do you want to lift it to at that point? But that's really it. But I come pretty close. But when it comes to like engines where it's a new porter and I don't know them, then I'll say, hey, flow the heads, and then we'll go from there.
Kerosene Cucumbers asks a question here. Speaking of custom cams, could you grind an LS cam with a 184366572 firing order?
Yes,
you could. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if there's any gain to it. It should technically make more power with the LS or Windsor firing order, but
we've tested them back to back.
Is there any real gain? Have you seen any real gain?
The 4.7 swap makes more torque, okay, but it's not. We're talking negligible. But the 4.723 swap, what we have noticed is bearing wear. That's really where.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up, because that's what the Fords used to do. The 302 Ford was available with 2 different firing orders for the same year, right? Yep. And the one with the standard 302 firing order would wear bearings more than the HO firing order.
Exactly. That's exactly correct. My Gen 3 Hemi downstairs that's going to my 68. That's my road racing car. That has a Windsor firing order. It's got the 4.723 swap in it. And it's only for bearing wear, because it has better harmonics on the rod bearings. That's really all I did it for. If you want to build torque, just change the 4.7. Just do a 4.7 swap, but it's not as nice on the bearings. But the 4.723 swap is definitely better.
So, Kerosene Cucumber says, I like the 1843657 It sounds better. I think that when the LSs came out, I like how they had that snappy rip sound like a Windsor. I really did. But now it's like, I don't know if a LS, I don't really know what an LS would sound like with a 1843657 firing order. I'm kind of interested. Now you got me interested in wanting to hear one.
Yeah. So Vintage Adventure Drives, I've always been interested in the 4.723 swap, and I've wanted for years and get my Mopar engines. I've actually done it. I've done it in the Cookie Monster. I had a cam that was a 4.723 swap in that. I didn't really notice any benefits in that engine just because the block moves so much that it's not a super rigid block, so I couldn't tell the difference between that, and it wasn't worth the extra camshaft cost where you could just get a regular camshaft over the counter. But in the Gen 3 Hemi, I know that's a super rigid block, because that's a BGE block, and that one's also a 6.1. Well, actually, I have it for the BGE block. There's literally no twist in that, so I'll be able to tell. And I built plenty of Gen 3 Hemis, and I know exactly what this type of RPM does for them. So, and it does to them.
Jay Malone says that the 289 firing order was too stressful and known to crack crankshafts. I think that's where the HO firing order really came from. Well, it's technically just a Windsor 351 Windsor firing order.
Yeah. And Jay Malone is, I'm sorry, Danny Boyd saying exactly the HO firing order does sound a bit smoother. Yeah, that's what
It
LS.
rips. It like sings.
Yeah, that's literally what an LS sounds like.
Right.
I
know.
I remember that this is the same firing order that the Mustangs had, right, in the 90s, right? And that's why
HO
when
firing order.
yeah, that's the HO firing order. I remember there was a very distinct sound. You could hear a Mustang with Flowmasters with turn downs by the exhaust coming from a mile away because it had a certain sound to it.
Dude, I was in San Diego during the 90s when those things were everywhere. Well, in the 90s, and Jay Biddle like literally had every one of them on the road coming to his shop. And dude, they sounded so good.
I agree with you. The Coyote firing order sounds horrible. Also, too, that flat plane crank they got in those damn things just sounds just terrible sounding, just absolutely terrible. And the kids nowadays, because obviously where I work at, my office is in the upper corner of the building, and it faces the road right there. And everybody who Adelbrock, they got a rev. Everybody,
the regular Coyote has a flat plane crank. Just those 5.2 Shelby motors did.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that the Coyote. I'm just saying also too that the flat plane crank also sounds. That's what I was saying. But is the V6 sound. I cannot stand the V6 sound. I'm sorry, but those the Charger, the Camaro, or the Mustang, they all have this sound that's just terrible. And they put these turn ups on them. Oh.
I don't really care for the V6 sound. I remember I grew up at the Buick Nationals. That was probably like the first V6s that anybody even coveted was the Grand Nationals, right? And they were everywhere in the Nationals, the Buick Nationals. I mean, God, I was a kid when those things were new. So I mean, they were at the Buick Nationals, and it's like, I think it sounds like I don't know, cutting the head off of a cow or something. They're like, bah! They don't. They just sound like an animal getting slaughtered. Is what I really think of.
So Tom Brown saying, I can't find it right now, but there was a guy in Britain that built a pre-war Bonneville car called the Super 16. We had two Buick straight eights in line with each other, and the nose 13 feet long. Think about that, dude.
Dude, that's where TV Tommy Ivo should have put 4 of those engines in his showboat, and that would have been something to talk about.
Yeah. Miss Catchy, what I was talking about is that I was saying that the Coyote firing order also to the flat plane cranks is what I was saying between those two. But yes, I don't like the sound of either one of them. That's just my personal opinion. And the Vintage Adventures Eye says there's a guy in town. He's got a 348 Chevrolet with a flat plane crank, 125 bore, and 325 stroke. He's planning to run to Bonneville with it. That's exactly what the flat plane crank's good for. It has a 2,000 to 3,000 RPM operating window, idle or up at peak RPM. It's because of harmonics and balance. They're super hard to balance, and the whole idea of those is you got to make them as light as possible. Back when I was at Crowler, I made a flat plane crank for an LS with titanium rods, and Lewis, who's now the president, I guess CEO of Crowler, it's in his GTO. It's what it looks like the LS GTO, like the
04 to 06.
Yeah, 04 to 06, yeah. And he's got a stick shift in it, and boy, does it make it sound. And it's twin turbocharged too. So it's got a very distinct sound. I'm not sure what year he went into. He did Drag Week in it one year, but with that flat plane crank. But you should hear it. It actually sounds pretty crazy.
You know what? The one that I thought that should be, if we were talking about like hot rod inline 6 cylinders and stuff, because I know you like your slants.
Yeah.
But man, that Pontiac overhead cam
sounds
engine,
good.
That's the one that should have been the hot rod that people should have jumped on. That one was worthwhile.
Blue Grit was saying that I thought they went to the HO firing order to relieve stress on the front of the block due to cracking between the cranking cam. It moves the stress to the rear of the block were stronger. All I know is that I don't know anything about the Ford, why they did that. I just know that as far as our testing and all the testing I've done is that it's nicer on rod bearings and main bearings and crank, and the harmonics. You can actually measure the difference in harmonics on the side of the engine at any different at any given RPM. There's far significant less harmonics, and the bearings just look so much better when they come out. And speaking of what Dallas was saying, there's nothing like the sound of a slant six, because I got to listen to it for 6 hours when it's at 2,700 RPM, just perfect tune, just humming along. It's just got a nice little sound to it. In fact, I took Kim for a ride in it. We went down to Dollar Tree and back, and she was telling me that I'm not doing too bad because mine's about the same speed as yours in the 8th mile. I'm like, well, look, this thing's not designed for that. I did all the wave tuning and the camshaft work on this, so that way over 2,000 RPM, this thing has 1,000 RPM band where it works really good because it's all about mileage. That's what I'm trying to do this from 2 to 3,000 is where this thing wants to live. And as soon as you get up to that 2,000, you start to hear the harmonic and then the resonance coming from the exhaust. And right at 2,500, that thing's really singing, and the thing sounds super happy, and that's where it wants to be.
Just Double Garage is saying our family just bought a 32-foot motorhome. It's a 2000 model and has a 454 in it. I didn't even know they made 454s in 2000.
Yes,
they made a variation of, I want to say the 5th gen or 6th gen family of the 454 all the way up to like 2008. There was a 496. It was a big cubic inch motor. They stroked it some, made it like 496. It was an 8.1 liter Vortec is what it was called, but it's a 454.
Yeah. Kerosene Cucumber is saying that I like the sound of the Miata. The Uncle Tony Garage swapped in the Miata exhaust sounded angry. I actually have that engine, that exact 170 engine that was in there. I have that in my garage downstairs. I'm still trying to figure out what to do with it. Dallas is telling me, he's telling me to put it in Plan Z.
Yeah, put it in Plan Z with your good head on it and force some air down that sucker.
I will. I just have this 225 that's all perfectly set up for it right now, but I will do that. I mean, it's a 170, and I could literally just shove a ton of air to it and let her eat.
Plymouth on Plywood says there was an old semi-truck concept in marketplace for years in Spokane with the side-by-side 306s and 3 transmissions. I kind of wanted to go look at it for fun. That's when people were creative. I think the automotive artistry has, like, since I've been born, you've seen race cars go from flamboyant 70s paint jobs to the gaudy 80s paint jobs. And then what was even worse was the Pro Street era, early 90s paint jobs. And then now it's like paint the bumper the same color as the grill, as the fender, as the hood. And today it's like, don't even paint it. The rattier it looks, the more cool I am.
Yeah.
I've seen them go through all those phases, and I think the automotive artistry is dying off. I think there's no real, like, you go to a drag race today, and I'll guarantee you, if it's a heads-up race, it's LS powered with turbo, and some of them will be Chinese turbos, but it's going to be LS with a turbo, probably a 5.3 Power Glide in an S10, a Fox body, maybe a Camaro, but I doubt it. And there's no real outliers. Everybody is doing the same thing. And
we're getting down to the 1 minute mark, man.
Yeah, but what do you think about the automotive artistry, the real stuff? What's going on with it today? You think it's still alive and well, and people are being automotive artists?
Dude, I don't want to say I'm trying to do that, but I think you're trying to do that. I think I'm trying to do it. I think most of these people in the chat are trying to do that. We're not just going after the same old cookie cutter crap. That's why I think
it's the YouTube crowd that's actually doing it more than anyone else.
I agree with it. They're always doing this outlier stuff. I like my Slant 6 stuff because it's just different, and it's just fun because it's different. Your Buick stuff, I mean, literally, you're the only person I've ever known that's been a Buick guy, for real. And I think that's awesome. And I like that, that the artistry of that. And, me trying to make 30 miles per gallon out of a Slant 6 at 70 miles an hour. I mean, will I ever make it? I don't know. But, hey, I'm going to give it a shot. I've been almost trying for 10 years now. So
I think it's doable. I think it's very doable with your 170 and bore that sucker over. Bore as much as you can.
yeah. All right, guys. With that, we're right at the 2 hour mark. Now, don't forget to go see John Wilburn Friday night. John Wilburn at 7 Central. And then, what time is Andy going live with his testing?
I think he's going to be live. If you're a member of the channel, right? Like if you're a channel member, he's going live with it from the get go.
Okay, I'm not going to do that.
He also gave out the number last night, this morning, saying the address where to show up. But I do believe that there is a entry fee for that. Like if you just show up as a spectator, I think it's like $20 entry fee or something.
I'll wait for the video to come out.
Yeah, me too. And it's kind of far from where I'm at. I mean, like I'm not going to drive 8 hours to go stand around in somebody's parking lot.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. Well, with that, you guys take it easy. We'll see you guys next week. And I'll be dropping some videos coming up. I got a video of my drive there and back and with some of Dallas and stuff, but I didn't want to step on a lot of his toes. I didn't want to steal content, but it was just kind of like stuff I was doing, but just showing what we're doing and what it was all about. So anyways, with that, you got anything else, Dallas? Do you want to talk about?
No, right. I don't have any videos coming out. I got to make something.
All right. With that, you guys take it easy. See you next week. Have a good one.
We're out.